And so here we go for the third week, talking about the Midda of Zerizut. For the past 2 weeks, we have developed the aspect of this character based on the Mesilat Yesharim, Rabbeinu Moshe Hayoun Lusato, who explained that Zerizut first comes in the idea of not delaying the mitzvah, and finally about finishing the mitzvah until the very last part. In today's session, I would like to talk about the more standard aspect of Zerizut, the way that most of us and in the Sefarim of Hazal perceive the concept of Zerizut, and that is the fact that the mitzvah has to be done fast. Now, I know in the past I told you that this is not really the right approach, but nevertheless, Parashat Vayera seems to be, and in the very beginning part of the Parashat, it seems to be that there is definitely here an emphasis on being fast, on being quick. We do something right. It's not just about not wasting time, it's about rushing in the act itself of the mitzvah. Now, I'm not going to tell you to believe me. I'm going to ask you to just listen to the Pesukim themselves. When Avraham Avinu hosted the Malachim, the Torah is very clear about the way that he did so. So he sees those three men, Vayarotz likratam, which means that he actually ran. Larutz means that he ran. So this is only one detail, but that's not the only one. Now we continue. He begs them to come forward. He asks them to please stay a few moments with him in his house. And the Torah says that when Avraham finally got the green light from these Malachim, Vayimaher Avraham ha'ohela el Sarah, which means that once again, he did it fast. Not only he did it himself, but he also told his wife, Vayomer Mahari shelosh se'im kemachsolet. So he is rushing himself and he is rushing Sarah as well. There is an idea of rushing again. And if you think that's the only details, the Torah continues. Ve'el habakar ratz Avraham. When he took care of the meat, obviously men love meat, so he's going to take care of a very, very important quantity of meat. The pasuk says that he ran. And once again, Vayiten el hana'ar vayimaher la'asot oto, which means that he was rushing, Sarah was rushing, and he appointed Ishmael as well to help him, and he rushed him too. Now, this is not just one or two details. There is a spirit in the way Avraham Avinu performed the mitzvah of Achnasat Orchim, that there was a rush. And without a doubt, there is definitely here an idea that the mehirut, the zerizut that was in the mitzvah should be a lesson for us. So, what does that mean exactly? Are we supposed to do the mitzvot fast? What if you get sloppy? What if by not taking our time, we don't pay attention to details? These are some serious questions, and the text demands more explanation. So before I get to this point, I would like to just wonder, why do you think the Torah chose the mitzvah of Hachnasat Orchim as the example for the midah of Zerizut? Why not any other mitzvah? There are so many other mitzvot that we know of. 613 is definitely a big number. Why Achnasat Orchim was the one chosen to emphasize the Zerizut? And as I was thinking about this question, I tried to put myself in the shoes of a host. What exactly is to host guests? How exactly are we supposed to be a good host? And I think that there is one word that is definitely the key of a successful Hachnasat Orchim. You know, a host is someone who is always ready. He is always on the move. And when we look at Avraham Avinu himself, the Torah describes the picture of how he hosted the Malachim. Vehu omed alehem tachat ha'etz vayochelu, which means that Avraham Avinu did not even sit. He did not eat with them. He was standing next to them, waiting to see whatever was missing. Not enough salt, not comfortable, it's too hot, it's too cold. Whatever it is, I am ready for you. And being a host requires so much awareness, preparation, the serving, the timing, Pay attention to the details. All of that is about being aware of what needs to be done. And the person cannot rest. He cannot stop. He cannot take a break. He cannot enjoy the moment for himself because he is ready to help, to serve for others. And a friend of mine told me something very interesting today. You know that Avraham Avinu did not perform the Hachnasat Orchim just in the beginning of this week's parasha. In fact, in our parasha as well, we see that he opened the business of Hachnasat Orchim. The pasuk says, "Vayitar eshel b'Be'er Sheva." When he settled in the city of Be'er Sheva, he planted an eshel. What is an eshel? It's a very weird word, and Chazal tell us that the eshel is a siman. Aleph, Shin, and Lamed are the three keys or the three pillars of Hachnasat Orchim. How exactly are we supposed to host? Aleph is achila, to feed our guests, shetiya for the shin, to give them drink, and leviya or levaya, which means to escort them outside, to give them the feeling that it's hard for us to part ways. Vayitar Esher b'Be'er Sheva means that Avraham Avinu opened this mitzvah of Hachnasat Orchim as a business on a national level to welcome everyone and anyone who would come to Be'er Sheva. And yet, the Torah doesn't give us any detail about it. The details are in the beginning of this week's parasha. Why is that? Why not there? To do a mitzvah on a very grand fashion should have much more credit. And the answer is actually in what we said earlier. The right way of doing the mitzvah of Hachnasat Orchim is not for me to wait for the guests to come and have a good time with them. It's for me to be proactive. It's for me to be aware. And pay attention to even the way we say Hachnasat Orchim. We don't say Kenisat Orchim, we say Hachnasat Orchim. There is a fundamental difference, and that's the fact that they don't come in. We invite them in. We pull them in, just like Avraham Avinu did. He went there, and the way he did that one mitzvah with so much quality defined the person that he was. And the Torah is paying attention to those details, wants us to really pay attention to that, because this is a way of living a life with mitzvot. This is what Zerizut really means. It's not just being fast. It's being proactive. It's to be aware. Is to pay attention to the details. This is what the idea of the Zerizut shows us in Hachnasat Orchim. But I think it goes even a little bit further than that. And when we talk about being quick, being fast, in Avraham Avinu's Zerizut of Hachnasat Orchim, by connecting the dots and saying that it's about being aware, paying attention to details, and being proactive, I think that this defines a lifestyle. When we pay attention to details, when we are aware of everything that's happening, time goes fast. It's not that we are rushing. Absolutely not. We take our time and we do things the right way. But because we are so into it, then time flies. Time flies whenever we love what we do, and time flies, therefore we love what we do. In other words, when I am invested into something 100%, paying attention to details, and not just waiting for things to happen, just like Yaakov Avinu, who worked those 7 years for Rachel, the Torah says, "Vayiyu be'einav kiyamim ahadim," which means the time went by so fast because he was so into it that he didn't see the time passing. And I think that this is why the Torah also tells us about how fast Avraham Avinu did it. He was so proactive that the time went fast. It's not that he rushed at all. It's the fact that we don't pay attention to whatever we do because we are so invested into it. And I think that this is a really, really important aspect of the Midda of the Zerizut. And may HaKadosh Baruch Hu help us to emulate this Midda as well, not just for Hachnasat Orchim, but for all the mitzvot that we do. Amen. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Shabbat Shalom U'Morach.